Today is a very beautiful day, Guru Purnima. And when I started trying to sort of understand where did this entire thing start from, where did Guru Purnima emerge from, I recognized that this was a day meant to recognize Vyasa, who was considered to be the teacher, the guru of gurus. And it is said that he even taught the first guru, who was Dattatreya, the son of Parameshwar, the Lord himself. So it's a very, very beautiful sentiment. And today, for us, really, it is a day of reflection. It is a day of introspection. It is a day for us to take stock of where we are in respect of this relationship with the Guru, with our Guru. Guru is the dispeller of darkness. That's what the literal meaning is. And in everything that we do in relation to the Guru, it is to recognize that with His grace, with His presence, being part of our presence, all the darkness in our own heart, in our mind, gets dispelled. So how do we approach this entire aspect of strengthening our relationship with God in terms of reflection? One of them very clearly is that all of us sitting here today have taken vows of discipleship vis-a-vis, opposite our Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda. It is a day for us to reflect as to where do I personally stand in terms of this relationship. How tenuous, how strong is this relationship? Am I drifting away from it? Am I paying lip service to it? What is this relationship that I have with my Guru? Sometime back, I remember mentioning that often when we look at relationships with the divine, especially when we start the practice of meditation and we get onto the path, we struggle with the as to how do we attune ourselves to the Guru, how do we bring him into our day-to-day life. And what typically happens is that we go to our meditation room, we meditate, or we go to the mandir, gurdwara, church, wherever we go, and after those 5, 10, 15 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour, we get back into the world and we forget everything about the Guru, about our spiritual life. And we sort of compartmentalize our day-to-day life from the time that we actually spent in thinking about the Guru, thinking about spirituality and meditating. And that is where the inner issue really lies, because we don't, in the process, build an ongoing and ever strengthening relationship with our Guru, who provides us the light. And we need to bring the presence of the Guru into every minute of our existence, because we need to recognize that our relationship with the Guru is the primary one. Our relationship with the divine is the primary relationship. Every other relationship in the world, be it to objects, to people, parents, friends, etc., is a secondary relationship, because that's a relationship which begins when we take birth and it ends when we die. But the relationship with the divine has always been there, remains there, and will continue to be there long after we shed this particular body. And that's really the issue. So how do we take the first steps forward in terms of recognizing this, in terms of moving forward on this particular path? We need to, as somebody said, light that little candle to dispel the darkness in our own mind, in our own heart. We don't have to look for this light outside of ourselves in the world around us. And in this relation, I was listening to a beautiful talk by Nayaswami Jyotish, and he he brings us back to the purification ceremony that all of us have gone through numerous number of times. I too have been through it several times, but sometimes the message doesn't get home in the sense that it got through to me. Perhaps I was more receptive, perhaps my heart was more open, but I understood it in a very nice manner, and I want to share that with you because that is a very beautiful way for us to recognize what our relationship with the Guru is and how we can deepen this relationship. When we come in for purification, we normally utter the words that I seek purification by the grace of God. And then the Nayaswami who's there, they recite a beautiful sentence which says, Master says, open your heart to me and I will enter and take charge of your life. Now it's a very, very powerful statement. I'm not sure how many of us have really dwelled upon it, but after listening to this talk and thinking about it, it certainly gave me very new insights. And he goes on to explain that there are 4 ways in which we perceive this world. One is we simply perceive. It's like we see things, it's like a camera. It doesn't do any discrimination. It simply takes the picture as is. The second is we apply our discrimination, our buddhi, and the buddhi makes us understand that this is a boy, this is a girl, this is really what it's all about, gives us some background history about it. The third part takes us on to the ego part of it, where our ahankar comes in, and it moves to from discrimination moves to my like and dislike. Do I like this person? Do I not like this person? Does this thing belong to me or not belong to me? And that is where the ego identification with the object comes in. And the fourth one comes in with, it's about feelings, it's about chitva, which resides in our heart center. And that makes us come up with with feelings. It could be emotions of anger, it could be of love, it could be hatred, it could be likes, dislikes, etc. And that, from a spirituality point of view, is perhaps the most important aspect that we need to talk about. Today, in the reading that Dhyana ji did, she spoke about devotion, she spoke about love. That love is the feeling, and she was quoting Swamiji, that love is the feeling which actually makes the energy rise and moves it to the destination that it's meant to get to. And it's really when we understand, we are able to understand the flow of this energy, that everything falls into perspective, that where does the role of the Guru actually fall in place. Jyotish explains it beautifully. He says that the heart center is like a central switch in our system. And if it is switched upwards, the energy moves up in the right direction. If it is switched downwards, our energy flows down. And if you look at Patanjali's first sentence in the Yoga Sutras, where he writes, Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Basically, that yoga is the neutralization of these waves of fluctuations, these fluctuations of likes, dislikes, of feelings that are happening inside us. The day that we are able to overcome these, we achieve union with the Lord. And the fact of the matter is that if our heart, in our heart, the switch keeps going on and off, and it goes on and off millions of times in a day. All the time it's happening. Please, when we reflect upon it, we get agitated, we get elated, we get happy, we feel sorrow, and the whole day passes through this. If you were to reflect upon what happened during the day or in the last 1 hour, we'd come through several such instances. And we need to understand that why does this happen? And every time the energy flows up, I feel good. Every time it flows down, I'm down in the dumps, and therefore where am I really headed? And therefore, when we ask Master, when Master says that open your heart to me, what really he's saying is that in a state of absolute faith, you need to surrender yourself to me. Because when I come into your heart, I will take charge of your life. I'll take charge of your destiny. Because if my thoughts are good, my actions are good, my destiny is bound to be good. Because there's nothing negative that is actually flowing through my entire being. So when he sits inside us, and he's one with the divine, he has achieved yoga, he is beyond those so-called fluctuations, those waves of emotions emotions that are going up and down, and when he sits inside us, he is able to take charge of our lives and is able to direct the energy in the right direction. That's really what this purification ceremony actually talks about. And if we can get our bhavna, if we can get our essence to try and understand that what really is the essence of the Guru, what really is the purpose of the Guru, what really is the reality of the Guru, and we can internalize it and get rid of our own doubts, our own fears, our own sense of evaluation or suspicion, we find that our life takes a beautiful turn. And I've seen this in my own life. I know many of you have personally experienced it. There are many small and large instances where we felt the presence of the Guru, and automatically stuff which seemed impossible seems to happen in the way it happens. And then we are told also, and this is something that Swamiji has always told us, he says, begin to attune yourself to the Guru. I mean, I have asked him several times, I said, Swamiji, what do you mean by attunement? He says, always being recognize that he's part of you, that he's the person who's acting through you, thinking through you, meditating through you. It's a very powerful thought, and sometimes many of us are challenged as to how can we actually bring ourselves to think that way, how can we bring ourselves to love that way. But any journey starts with the first step, and the first step is try it. Try opening your heart even a little bit and try practicing what has actually been explained to us. I think Swami Kriyananda was the biggest exponent of this. He made his Guru work through him. You know, he tells us a beautiful story. He says, once I wrote an article, and many people said, Swamiji's written this wonderful article. And he says, I naturally felt happy about writing this article. So next day when I sat down on my computer, I started writing, and this thought of that I had written this beautiful article was uppermost in my mind. And I started writing. And then I read the sentence, and I said, no, this sentence is not good enough. It's not what people will like. So he says, I rubbed it out, and I wrote the next sentence. And I didn't like that. And the third one. So he says, I sat there for a fairly long time, and he says, then I said, oops, what are you doing? You know, you have never written an article. The article has always flown through you. It's the energy of the Guru that's actually talking through you. And he says, moment I said, I'm sorry, Master, it's really your work. He says, my pen started flowing, and the article came out, and as usual, it came out beautiful, and everybody loved it. And he has been the embodiment of the real Guru discipleship relationship. And I think he's the role model that we need to actually look at. So we need to bring this day-to-day reality in our life. If we can bring it, we will move very, very fast along this path. Last night I was at our local Gurdwara, and there was a beautiful kirtan going on, and the Shabad which was being sung was by Bhagat Kabir, whom we all know, 14th, 15th century saint, and they had a television, they had a big screen on which there was a translation, and the translation said something very beautiful, and it's quoting Kabir, and Kabir is saying this, that I have never done anything, I shall do nothing. This body is incapable of doing anything. Everything that happens because of you. And the surrender that he had actually made to the Lord himself, and he was a living embodiment of a saint who saw that energy flowing through him, that everything around him was natural. I think that all of us today, on this very auspicious day, need to make this our reality. We need to make Yogananda sit at our heart center and constantly go back to him and ask him to guide us and take charge of our life. Thank you.
Dear friends, Namaste. On this day of Guru Purnima, it is my great pleasure to talk about the one I love and the one who loves me, the one who loves all of us, the one who loves all of us because we look up to him trustingly like little children, because we have given our little hands in his hands, because we have opened our hearts to Him so that He may take charge of our lives. And even when we were not able to do all these things, He loved us. He watched over us as we grew, and when the time was right, He brought us all here. Just like Babaji called lovingly upon Lahiri Mahashay and told him that he had been patiently waiting for his disciple for the last 33 years. This is the love of the Guru, unconditional and eternal. Today, dear friends, I'd like to share with you an experience which I have not talked about earlier. You know, all of us have these days in our life when we just feel very, very sad, and it's difficult to explain where the sadness comes from. So this was one of those days, in spite of doing all practices, doing all that needed to be done technically, I was feeling extremely sad. I don't know, it was a frustration, a desperation, a deep yearning in the heart, but it was the pain in the heart that I couldn't reconcile with. So I was walking alone on the terrace of my house, which I often do, and tears were just rolling down my eyes. I didn't know why, but I couldn't stop it. Mentally, I was trying to converse with God, and Guruji was on my mind. Then in a flash, an image, a picture of Guruji, as we have here, it appeared in my mind. It was a crystal clear picture, and when I looked into those eyes had tears in them, and a tear was rolling down his cheek. And at that moment, I realized that he understood. He already understands all the pains, all the love of our hearts. He smiles through us. He laughs through us. He lives through us. He cares for us. He loves us. So today, let us remember His very own words. To those who think me near, I am near. And let us all also remember that whatever we seek in this world, that is the feeling of being loved, the feeling of being cared for, the feeling of being understood, a sense of security, all of these are already present at the Guru's feet. If someone were to ask me what the Guru means to me, I would say he's the sun of my life, filling me with light and warmth. He is also the moon, so gentle, so cooling, so soothing. He is the monsoon-laden cloud which showers me with grace. He is the spring which brings flowering thoughts to my mind. He is the gentle breeze. He is the strong wind that allows me to fly in skies of freedom. He is my father, my mother, my friend, my guardian, my beloved, my master, my savior. I'm nothing. He is everything. Just to end, I'd share a few words of a poem that just got spontaneously written for Guruji and for God. There is someone who hears my thoughts, who knows my feelings, hiding and yet expressing his overwhelming love for me. His ways are myriad and mysterious. Like a sculptor, he chisels away my faults, is sometimes playful and sometimes quite serious. He is the anchor of my life. He is the boat. I look up to him always, and he always gives hope. In every beat of my heart, in every breath that I take, in every call of my soul, I know who lives through me. It is He, it is He, it is He. Jai Guru.
Happy Guru Purnima, everyone. I wanted to share this morning with you what we want to do on this day of Guru Purnima. And of course, we want to go deep in our meditation. We want to feel the presence of the Guru all day long as much as we can. But it's not going to be limited for one day. we need to extend that one day for the whole year, that we practice it for the whole year, the teachings of our gurus. And so, for example, if I say that if we teach our meditation, and you see people practicing meditation, then you feel that, okay, people are practicing meditation, I should meditate also. And if nobody practices meditation here, you only teach, what will happen? Nobody will practice, isn't so? So I thought to take an example of someone who has perfected this path. And I thought about Sister Dhyana Mata, because she had a birthday in this month. Anybody remembers which day it is in this month? 4th of July, and which is also a day of independence for America. So, and she was a great example. Master said, one of the lines about her, she said that I have searched her whole life, but have not found a single thought of sin. That's a very remarkable statement. That look at your own life, that can be a thought of negativity. Probably every day we have something here and there. And so I wanted to share about her life a little bit, and it's a perfect example of discipleship. It's a perfect example of that how Guru helps the disciple. I remember one of the stories that when Master met Sister Dhyana Mata, that she invited him for a party at her house, and she had a salt shaker. That salt shaker was something like it could always be standing. You can't put it down. If you put it down, it will come up. You put it down, it'll come up. So there were several guests at Sister's house, and everybody was trying their hand to put it down. Nobody could do it. So Master came, he took it, he examined for a moment, and then he heard a voice of God in him saying, for Sister's benefit, lay down. And Master, he took it, he put it down, and he stayed down. Everybody was like that. So what happened? That why did Master do this to Sister? Is that because he heard a voice of God in him telling that by this example, Sister will be attuned to you. And next day, you know what happened? Next day, Sister comes down. Master was gone that night. But next day, Sister comes, and there is still some guests there. And they're still trying to lay their hand, put it down. But they couldn't do it still. And Sister comes, she takes it, and she pushes it down, and it stays down. Again, everybody claps. And they ask, what happened? How could you do that? And she says, you know what she says? She says that I could do it because I could feel his vibrations. I could attune myself to his vibrations. That's how I could do it. So that's what we should do in our life too. That we are talking about this in this morning, that several of the speakers talked about attuning ourselves to the Gurus. So what does it mean by attuning ourselves to Guru's vibration? That is one of the examples that we learned from Sister Dhyana Mata. She was a perfect example of devotion. She was a perfect example of attunement, of faith. When Paramahansa Yogananda came to her house, and the place where he stood and blessed her, she saw the spiritual eye. She put at the same place, she put a vase filled with flowers. What a beautiful example. And every day, either she would put fresh flowers, or maybe artificial flower, but she kept that place as a remembrance that her Guru had blessed her, and she saw the spiritual eye at that very day. So that's what we need to do, that in our devotion, that we remember every day our Guru. In every moment, in every second, we should remember. Of course, it's not easy. It's very easy to say, it's very easy to preach, but it's very difficult to practice all these things. And then we're talking about the attunement of sisters. When Master would go to lecture somewhere, and they both were at different places. Master will return, and she will ask him, by the way, when did you say that particular day, this, what did you mean by this? She knew what Master was talking. She knew what he was saying on a particular day, particular time. How did she know that? is because she was attuned. A perfect attunement for that was there. We could also take an example of faith from her life that we all know, probably most of us we know, that she suffered for 20 years. She was sick all the time. But you know what Master said about her? I have seen her face, I have seen in her eyes, but never did I see in her face, on her face, in her eyes, anguish, anger, or pain, but only sweetness of God. That she never complained that she was suffering, that never said that, Guruji, please release me, I have suffered a lot. She never complained, she did never say about these things. But she had a complete faith that if Master is giving, it Guru is giving, it must be right. It must be for me. So does it for our life too. That when we go through a difficult time in our life, what do? Do we complain about it? That Master, why you are doing to me? Or do we say that, Master, if it is happening, it must be good for me? What do we say? Do we have enough faith in ourselves? So in these coming days, let's try to practice of attunement, of faith, of devotion in our life. That this great saint, by the way, Sister Gyanamata was Saint Teresa of Avila in the previous lifetime. So let's try to become that example in the coming days, in the coming years, and try to attune ourselves, have perfect faith, perfect devotion for the Guru. Happy Guru Purnima again. Thank you all.
Namaste. I was trying to contemplate last few days about what it will look like when a soul reaches its final emancipation, when it's really free. All of us here, we practice Kriya Yoga. Some of your new students, they eventually want to go somewhere. All our goals are basically trying to understand and achieve that final emancipation, final merger in God. It's a very difficult thing to comprehend. We don't really understand what that joy will look like eventually. But we all know for sure that it is going to be something which is beyond our imagination, beyond our comprehension of our intellect. When we, even in our regular lives, like day-to-day lives, we strive to achieve perfection in our worldly life. For example, you work hard for years, for decades sometimes, to become, to form your own company or to establish your own firm. And one day when the goal or the dream that comes true, we feel extremely elated, don't we? Same thing for any other field, like you want to become a musician and you spend decades trying to perfect that particular art. And then once you achieve there, once you reach there, that's a great sense of victory. Now, that just gives a glimpse of what that victory, when we will merge in God, will look like. Now, think for a moment, like when we merge, we are at that particular level. Just someone says, well, okay, now that you're here, just start over again. No. They say it takes millions of incarnations to reach that state, and we start over again? No. We have done that part. But there are some souls which do come back. We don't say Festival of Light held that often, but there's a line in that Festival of Light written by Swamiji, where it says, those souls willingly accept limitations and pain for the salvation of mankind. Master and all these masters, they didn't need to come here. They have attained emancipation a long time before, but they do come back. When Master talked about wearing a body, he says like a huge overcoat, which feels very heavy when he feels like, and he lives his life with us, among us, showing us how we can follow him and reach the state that he has been achieved. And not once or twice, he says in his book God's Boatman that I'll come back again and again, if need be 1 trillion times, as long as this one stray soul has left behind. Well, that's a big promise. That's a promise that we all can rely on. And immense patience. He's not going here to force, well, I am here, so those who are ready for the final emancipation, come and stay in the line. No. It just comes from heart. He says, I will wait. Many disciples, as Swami writes in his book, they were with Master for like decades together when he was in physical body. And then towards the end of it, they left. Master didn't try to stop them. He said, I'll wait. This is his path and he will come back. But he didn't try to pursue him intellectual or by doing any of his powers, saying that, because this is our path. Everyone will have to walk and will reach it. Until that time, Master will keep coming. And that's a great blessing that all of us have here. What can we do from our part on this day of Guru Purnima to honor such a Guru and then do our part? Though it's 25%, what can we offer him to make his life or his goal easier? How can we extend a hand, which he is always open, as all of the people who talked before were saying. And that's what something like we can work on faith. We can practice all the things that he has taught us. There will be times when this is not easy to practice. We have all faced problems, faced doubts. It won't be a rosy path, to be honest with all of you. We all know that. It won't be like a honeymoon ride all the time to emancipation. There will be challenges. There will be times when we will be tested intensely. There will be times when we will be troubled. So how can we survive those tests and still continue our path towards him? Faith can be our armor. And that will give us the strength to do that, to take that next step. I'll just conclude with a short story from Jesus Christ's life. When Jesus Christ went to Jerusalem, just before, on his way, he was doing a lot of miracles. He was resurrecting dead people, and then there were a lot of healing news. So lots of people from all over Israel were coming to see him. One afternoon, there were like thousands of them surrounding him, and this was in the middle of desert, middle of nowhere. So one of his disciples, I think it was John, asked him, like, Master, there are thousands of people waiting here and we don't have enough food for them. How can, ask them to go to the nearest village and make their own arrangement. Jesus Christ, just looking calmly at him, says, we'll give what we have to them. This disciple didn't really quite understand. He said, well, Master, we have like a few pieces of bread and then a few fish left, and there are thousands of those. Peter, Jesus Christ, another disciple, he knew Jesus more than anyone else, and he stopped them and he says, do as he says. He had that faith, and he commanded them on Master's behalf to do what happened afterwards. Well, they went and then started distributing whatever they had. And then there was a last piece remaining. So he said, well, I have the last piece remaining, so we're sorry. And other people said, no, there are more. And then the basket was full again. And it was more than sufficient for 1,000 people, and there was surplus. All this happened because Master can do what they want, and they can make things happen. We, with our own human understanding, don't really understand all the things. We try to see, like, why is it happening? It doesn't quite make sense. But as long as we have that faith, as long as we have that understanding that, well, one day I will understand why this happened. At the moment, all I have to do is basically keep walking. Take that next step so that I'll go one step closer to Master, making his weight a little less for all of us. I hope this Guru Purnima Day we can all decide and then to take that small tiny step, whatever is the right step for me at this time, and welcome him with all our hearts. God bless you all.
I think this line of what Amit was saying, Brahmacharya Amit, is really the essence of it. Do what the Guru says. When I came to Ananda, actually before, I tried so many things, like you all, I'm sure. I tried transcendental meditation, I tried Buddhist meditation, I was doing chanting, various types of chanting. I was going to astrologers, I was going to psychics, I was going to counselors, I was reading every possible spiritual book. I was a complete confusion. I was totally confused. And I didn't know what to do. But when I began to pray deeply, then I came up on Master's organization, Self-Realization Fellowship. That was wonderful. I was living in Los Angeles, and I had techniques, I had books, I had a place to go. Still, I wasn't making the progress that I felt I should make. And then Master sent me my guru in this life. He came through Swami Kriyananda. And as Daljit said, Swamiji has been the instrument of Guruji for us. Once I got to Swamiji, Master through him began to change my consciousness. I had the same techniques, I had the same books, I was doing the same things, but I began to change. And when Master told Swamiji once that he said, you must get devotion, Swamiji began to chant and all, and he felt himself changing. And he said, oh, I've changed myself. And then he heard that Master had told some of the disciples, look how I've changed Walter. Master had changed Swamiji. It was a definite contact. It's a definite contact that the Guru has with the disciple, and a transference of his consciousness and his blessings. There was a woman who came to Yoganandaji, and she took his blessings. Then after a while, she felt she wasn't doing much, and she found another guru who could dematerialize his body on one hill, one cliff, and materialize it on the other. So she went to Master and said, I found another guru now. I don't want to follow you anymore. And he says, very well. I withdraw my ray. Now that ray was his vibrations, his energy, his protection, his joy, his love, his vibrations. I'll withdraw my ray because you have another guru now. Swamiji said of that woman, she came back not very long after, and the light was gone from her eyes. Who's changing whom? The guru was changing her through his vibrations, through his ray. There's a definite blessing that the guru gives to the disciple. As when Swamiji came to Master, Master put his finger on his heart chakra, and his whole arm vibrated for nearly 2 minutes. Swamiji said from that moment on, he was a changed person. From day one, his guru blessed him, and he was a changed person from that moment on. And there was another man who came to Guruji. His name was Orville Anders. And first he was just in the print shop or something, and he would laugh at all the meditation and everything the yogis were doing. And one day Master called him in. He felt he was open. He called him in for an interview. And the man came, and Yoganandaji took his head, and he brought his head up to him, and he looked deep into his eyes. He never said a word. The man left, stumbling out of the room. People asked, what happened? He says, I don't know. But he became a disciple of Yoganandaji from that moment on because of the blessings of Master. Now, that doesn't always happen. Guruji had another disciple who had the same blessings, but he left. And Master wondered about that, and the disciple said, will he come back? And Master said, or when will he come back? Master said, he will never come back because he was never in. He had been blessed repeatedly by Yoganandaji, but he wasn't open. He didn't allow those vibrations to come in. As Master said, if you shut me out, how can I come in? So he made a formula for how to draw his vibrations. To those who think me near, I will be near. To all those who received him, how do we receive? Chanting was part of his formula. Chant every day. Seva, part of his formula. If you come and serve here, we had a wonderful Seva day yesterday. Many people came. Practice the techniques he gave, energization, Hangsa, Om Kriya, that was part of his formula. Come to satsangs. He said, through the company you keep, you can progress much more quickly in your spiritual growth. Read the books and the lessons that he had. That was part of his formula. Attune yourself, call to him deeply, part of his formula. If we just follow what the Guru said, what he gave, we can find God. And I'll close with two beautiful stories. One of a disciple who he came to his master for teachings, and his guru gave him the job of just being outside and carrying wood for the stove. Everybody else was inside, and he kind of wondered, well, how come I can't go into the satsangs? But year after year, month after month, year after year, he did the job his guru gave him without complaining. And one day, after some years, he was picking up wood, and he noticed he got some of his hair was caught in the wood. He noticed his hair was gray now. He'd been following what his guru said for a long time. And he had never gone to the satsangs. He never had diksha. He never learned any techniques. He just followed what his guru said. And he thought, I didn't find God. He began to weep. And his guru rushed out, and he held the tears in his hands, and he said, if you only knew how great you are, how much you have realized, if one tear from such a great soul would touch the earth, there would be famine for 7 years. He had just done what his guru wanted. Then his guru touched him, and he went into cosmic consciousness. Beautiful story. And another of Chaitanya, who had some very great disciples, and they asked him one day, when will I find God? So one says, he says to one, well, you maybe, I don't know, next lifetime. You may be 3-4 lifetimes. You may be 5 lifetimes. You may be 10 or whatever. Every disciple, he had a different amount of time they would find God. So his foremost disciple, he was always in joy. He came, he said, Guruji, what about me? And the Guru looks at him, he says, you, 1,000 lifetimes. People couldn't believe it. He was his closest disciple. He took what his Guru said, he walked out onto the porch, and the others came, and they ran after him to comfort him, because he had 1,000 more years to go. And the disciple was there in joy, dancing in joy. And they said, brother, haven't you heard? The Guru said, you're just going to take you 1,000 more lifetimes. Me, it's 10, and him 5, and whatever. And he says, no, you haven't heard. He promised me I would find God. He promised me. Yogananda ji has promised us. All these masters have made the promise. And at that time, his Guru comes out and he touches him. And in that moment, he realized God within himself. Now, what is the moral of that story? He was in ever new joy. He was dancing in joy. He was completely attuned to his Guru. He didn't care how long it took. His Guru promised him. The masters have made that promise. And our job is to receive them in our hearts, to open ourselves, and to become one with them in this lifetime. God bless you all. Let's meditate a moment.